it may be a Christmas dinner for a group of managers that we decide we're going to have our yearly annual dinner at the yacht club, and we need to pay AWE a check from that as well. So that's just a few examples, but just wanted to clarify that that entire amount is not a subsidy as far as our food service contract goes. This is everything we've paid AWE, and I think it might not be a bad idea for you all as your subcommittee to get a listing of that and look at the detail and see exactly what the different buckets would be on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, this is just a preliminary look. We'll have a complete report at the June board meeting for all of these things. The next one.
John, before you go.
Yes.
With respect to AWE, what I'd like to see is of that 451, some of it's reimbursed because fees are collected, let's say, for a golf outing and you pay for lunch. It's part of the entry fee. So of that 451, what truly is for expense for discovery tours or lunches versus how much of that 451 is covered by fees coming in from another area? Because I don't think 451 is how much got expensed to the POA.
Well,
it's
again,
be less than that.
This goal is to expire, or our goal is to end in June. And what we wanted to do, John and I, is to present this at this May meeting for that type question.
Any other questions on that one? The next service is for our attorney. That's Kennerly, Montgomery, and Finley. And that was the annual cost last year. Moving on to...
And that's both for legal work and collections, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what goes on here is just a small part of what the law firm covers, because there's ACC meetings and other things. There's a whole lot more in that. If you like a more detailed explanation, we can provide that next month. Caldwell Paving, they're not doing any paving this year. Clayton, what are you looking forward to next year? Or any expenditures for road services?
Yes, we have contracts with, with Harrison Construction to do some paving at Toqua. We have some other projects that we're in the process of doing scopes of work and bidding those out on other paving projects. It's just Caldwell is not doing anything this year.
And Jacobs Engineering, thank you, Clayton. Jacobs Engineering is the firm we use for water and sewer recommendations, and we'll see where that goes. We'll have a further report on that next month. Interstate Mechanical Services, they're the ones that take care of all the HVAC in all of the restaurants, all of the properties that the POA manages. And a Gordon Food Service, that is the food contractor that is used for Kahiti, the restaurant at Kahiti. Gordon Food Services also services AWE, but Kahiti is a separate contract this year. So that's what they spent last year down there. The mowing service is what we spent last year for POA Common Grounds. And some of that may be rebid because of the fact that a lot more lots have been built on, and there may be not as much need for the POA to be involved in mowing services. And the last one, Valerie Lazo, DBA, a little bit of everything. This is comes under the heading of awards, plaques, name tags, and so forth. And we need to have some more detail as to what they provide for their services. Missy, if you have any. Pardon? The bunker project at Okay, all right. And that's the end of the report. We'll have a complete report next month.
So I have a question. Don't we have an ongoing bill for putting the sealer on the roads that's equivalent to roughly $1 million a year? Who's that with?
We are just sealing the streets in Kahiti this year, finishing up that project because the beating that our streets are taking from all this construction, instead of sealing roads and making them black and pretty, we got a bunch that we need to mill and pave and overlay because they're taking a beating. So instead of sealing roads, we're going to be paving, and those projects will be coming to y'all soon for approval.
But if I look at 2021, we did a lot of, what do we call it?
That PMM, and that was
Yeah.
Caldwell paving.
I thought that number was closer to $1 million.
I don't know where they got this number from. I don't know.
All right, well, we probably need to look at the numbers, because that's, it seems to me that our budget annually
Yes,
is $1 million for road sealing.
It was more than that, yes, sir.
So, yeah, so we'll just need to look at those numbers.
Okay.
But you're saying, Clayton, that would be Caldwell paving?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right.
But that's not a long-term service agreement, right? That's bid on a particular job, correct?
We have a different company doing
Yeah.
in Kahiti this year.
Okay.
So you think that might be the difference?
I don't think that's the difference. I think this number is wrong. But we actually don't, like Teleco Dirt Works is a multi-year contract. We don't do that with our road paving and road rejuvenation.
Right. So I
We
guess
approve it each year.
So I guess I wouldn't expect to see that on here then, because this was going to review recurring contracts.
Right.
Yes. So that's probably the
Yeah,
difference.
so we didn't go through and look at all the high dollar payments.
Yeah.
We looked at what we were charged with, the recurring
Yes.
contracts.
All right.
Well,
Just
and-
more for clarification question
Right.
for me.
Sweetwater Valley Oil, that's just a blanket purchase order, right?
Yes, and we do periodically, quarterly, call and check other places, fuel rates.
Okay. So you have no long-standing contractual arrangement with them?
So along those lines, same thing for Gordon Food Services. If I don't like the price of what they have, Angie will call and say, hey, can I use somebody else? So we don't have any contract agreement with them. We also don't have any contract agreement with Kennerly, Montgomery, and Finley.
You're in trouble, Kevin. Well, considering that, most of this doesn't have an ongoing contractual relationship, because what you're talking about with Awe Hospitality, that's one-offs. And
Do you happen to have the wording of your actual goal, Pat? Maybe it wasn't just contracts, was it and just service providers over a certain amount? I don't have the wording of your goal.
Yeah.
same with Jacobs, because Jacobs is on a
Yeah.
project basis.
Yep.
The mowing service is a contract, Interstate is a contract, Teleco Dirt Works is a contract, and I think Valerie Laszlo, DBA, a little bit of everything, is basically, they bid on a project, right?
Yep.
So there's very few of these that are multi-year contracts.
Yep. So in June, you will see a much smaller grouping, and we'll have the answers that Steve talked about.
Yeah.
But at least you know where the money's going.
Well, it's a good discussion because
Yeah, sure.
we can see where a lot of our expenses are, right?
Right.
And so the question is, what do we need to do, if anything, to review who we're doing business with?
And again, like working with the Public Services Advisory Committee, their dealings with Jacobs Engineering, always looking for another engineering firm or type firms, just like with Sweet Valley Oil, always looking for another price break, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay, thanks, guys. We'll look forward to June.
Thank you.
Next item is reserve study status. Steve?
Okay, I don't see John Orr in the building, so I'll pick it up. John is a member of the FAC. I think he might have been here last month. The news update is that the Facilities Advisors International, which is the firm that's going to come in and do the reserve fund valuation, They did their field work this week with the POA financial staff in Winston. They toured all the facilities, looked at the equipment, and they believe we'll have our valuation draft report back to us by the end of June. And just to give you a little piece of why I believe it's important to get the valuation done, if you take a look at what you saw last month on the water and sewer projects over the next 8 years, there's a potential to spend $15 to $20 million on water and sewer. Well, right now, if you look at our reserve fund for water and sewer, it's $1.8 million, give or take. Had we done a reserve fund valuation years ago, it probably would have indicated that you need to build your reserves to more than 1.8 million by 2022. So I'll let the data speak for itself, but it's a good thing that we're getting this reserve fund valuation completed. And then once we have it completed, it'll be reviewed with the board. You have to buy, oh, here comes John. Just talking about the reserve fund valuation. Once the valuation is complete, be reviewed with the board to agree to the valuation, which is 100% reserve. Then the second step is the board will then have to determine what is the acceptable funding level. Typically, that's between 30 and 50%. And then once you determine what the funding level is, the funding level percent times the reserve calculation tells you what you ought to have on your balance sheet. So then you'll have a target reserve fund that you need. You'll know what you have at the point in time. So then you got to determine a glide path. How will you get to that reserve fund over time? And that will have to be decided by the board as well. But the good news is the experts have been here, they've toured, and now they're grinding the numbers, and we'll have something in June. I don't know if you want to say anything else, John, but basically I said we got the work started. You're a key part in helping the team as part of the Finance Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add is,
Can you use them so people online can hear you?
I'm not sure what you covered before I got here, but, you know, they did do 3D mapping of all of our buildings. So that'll be part of what we get back from them. So we'll know exact measurements and have pictures and everything of every facility, whether it's public or private. So they toured every pump house, lift station, maintenance facility, as well as much more in depth on the public buildings. And we had a big conversation about level of detail that we wanted to see. I don't know if you covered that. You know, it ranges from 100 line items to one development wanted every granular detail they could get, and they had 70-some thousand line items in the analysis, and it became completely unusable pretty quickly. So we kind of, I think, landed around the 300 to 500 line items. So a building like this may have 20 line items, you know, each HVAC system, the kitchen, major equipment, furnishings, things of that nature. But we don't need to go any lower than that in our discussions with Winston and the group. But the conclusion, when we had our meeting at the end of the week, was just throwing numbers out there. He said you got about $300 to $350 million of assets that are not on the books. And, you know, so that he's going to obviously grind through the numbers to come up with an actual value of those assets. He said one way to look at it is that's roughly $50,000 for every lot owner in the development. That's how it would kind of work out at the 350 plus the, 60 some odd thousand, 60 million we have on the books or assets, so.
And you may want to explain about the 300 to 350 not on the books, because that came over when the POA was first formed. So it's an entry that was more of an equity entry. It's not detailed for your roads, your water, and your sewer system.
But that equity entry is only $6 million.
Right.
And current value right now is estimated at over $300 million for those, that $6 million that we inherited. So really, it's the replacement cost that we're reserving for, not the original cost 30-some odd years ago. So it'll be the good news is we're going to get back fairly quickly. He was dedicating this entire week to working on our project. He said he may have another week or two after that, but he'll get us something fairly quickly.
So then, John, he leaves us, this company leaves us with what can we use going forward?
He loads this all into his proprietary software. He gives us access to that software so that now we make changes to it. We'll have to have a designated person within finance that's probably going to be the only one allowed to make changes as we add assets, as we, get rid of assets. If we upgrade something, it's, we got to record that activity. That's ours. We get a small license fee, like $250 a year to have access to his system. And then we basically, technically never need him to come back. He said a lot of larger organizations want him to come back every 5 years to kind of take a fresh look, but that's the extent of it. So at this point, we can kind of self-manage the reserve aspect with his software and what he's going to have loaded in there.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Steve or John? Anybody else? All right, thank you.
John?
Next item on the agenda is operations report. Winston?
Thank you, Mr. President. For this May report, we'll cover through April of this year's operations. Net income for the month is $556,000, $650,000 better than budget. Things are really doing good. Revenue missed budget by $97,000, but expenses were better than budget by $584,000. So doing a good job with the expense side of the equation. Total cash is $13.7 million, $5.7 million in operational cash, compared to 21 levels, $10.6 million in cash at this time last year, $4 million in op cash. Need to update the board on the motion made last month on behalf of Steve Snyder by Marty to put $3 million in reserves. After reviewing that with Jessica and her looking into the transfers and so forth that are normally made, we were needing to make 1.5 million op cash transfers to the reserves before the motion was made. So long story short, the 1.5 and then the 3 million would have left us a little too thin in the operational cash. So I'm going to ask, and I've talked to Steve earlier about this, I'm going to ask Steve to make a motion for the board to reduce the prior month's motion from 3 million to 2 million transfer into reserves. Net, after it's all said and done, 3.5 million will be transferred to reserves instead of the 3 million that was in the motion last month. Any questions on that?
So to follow up, I'm not sure exactly technically how to do this, but I would like to modify the approved motion from last month, which requested moving 3 million from op cash to the reserves, and modify that to say, since we've already got the $1.5 million that's coming from the monthly allocation to the reserves, to $2 million, so grand total will have 3.5 moved. 1.5 is automatic, the 2 million is a move straight from operating cash to the reserves.
That's
I'll
about
second.
that's about the longest motion I've
second.
ever heard.
You can count on me, Pat.
So basically, we have a motion to basically amend last month's motion to move 3 million to reserves, to reduce that to 2 million, since we're already moving 1.5 million through the normal processes.
Technically, what we should do is withdraw the approval for the motion last year. That would be one motion. And the second motion would be to approve moving 2 million.
Okay.
So,
I second that motion.
All right,
so I move to rescind the approval of the $3 million transfer from last month's meeting.
Second.
all right. So it's been moved in second to rescind the movement of $3 million from operating cash to reserves that was made last month. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passed 7-0.
So now I move to move $2 million from operating cash to the reserve funds.
Second.
It's been moved in second to move $2 million from operating cash to the reserve fund. Any discussion?
And to make this perfectly clear, that will be a grand total of
3.5.
3.5 million.
3.5.
Yeah.
Do we need to designate which reserve fund it goes to? Because we did last month. I think we said $1 million to amenity and $2 million to R&M.
I can do it 50/50 or however you choose.
Let's do 50/50. 50% to
All right.
R&M.
So we'll add that to the motion.
So, okay, I'll amend the motion to, make the allocation half to R&M, half to amenities.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved
It's
and
just a
second.
bunch of technicalities.
So it's been moved and second to move $2 million from operating cash to $1 million to the amenity reserve and $1 million to the R&M reserve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passed 7-0.
And Marty, for the sake of the audience, these are auditable votes.
That's correct, Pat.
You have to move this stuff. A board or a group that is in a governing position must go through this tedious process in order to make everything.
Because Marty will have to do what I just had to do, is sign a letter to the auditors about all of the reserve movements.
Yeah, these are audited every year, and trust me, they don't miss a single motion. So thank you for that. Thank you for getting that straightened out and in the record. Next, I'd like to report on happenings in the IT department. External Pro Shop PA system was installed at Toqua and Tanasi. This will help with the golf world, especially the professionals who are trying to direct golf and golf tournaments, be aiding them in their giving directions, explaining tournament rules, and so forth and so on. A new wireless connection was made here in the yacht club between TV and projector, just to facilitate operations and to help with the AV, audio-visual activity that takes place in our meetings in this building. The Hyper-V server that was ordered or approved by the board last month has been ordered. It is in shipping process. We are now at the mercy of production and shipping in the world. So we're hoping that that will be sooner rather than later. And congratulations to IT. The team found 7 unneeded copper phone lines that we were paying a monthly bill to AT&T on. And they removed those lines, stopped their operations. That'd save us about $18,000 annually. In HR, we have hired this past month 11 employees, 1 in accounting, 2 in building maintenance, 3 in wastewater, Toqua Golf Maintenance 3, Kahiti Restaurant 2, and part-time individual at the front desk. We have open still in accounting 3, housekeeping 1, village maintenance and street department 2, and outside employees at the pro shops 2. And employment has been facilitated by our new HR, Russell Bearden. He's assisting Chris Carter, and they're getting a lot more, but it's increasingly difficult. I've never seen an environment where it's so hard to hire and find good people as it is right now. It's just incredibly difficult. They will go through the process. They will tell you they'll be there. They don't show up. They call and express interest in the job, and you make an appointment to interview or have them come in. They don't show up. It's It's nothing like I've ever seen before in my life. I would, it's quite appalling to say the least. In ACC, the activity there is still continuing to be very strong. Last 30 days, we have permitted 39 single-family homes. Year-to-date, we have permitted 131 single-family homes. At this time in 2021, that number was 126, so we're 5 homes ahead of where we were on a record-setting year last year. And currently, there are 353 homes under construction at this time. And to give you some, just something to relate to, those numbers used to be in the low hundreds, 150, 175 were high numbers. And that comment that Clayton made about the excessive wear and tear on our streets, we were building 100 homes a year, 125, 135. You triple that amount, you've got that many more deliveries of lumber, trusses, concrete, rock, heavy equipment, so forth and so on. And so his, where we were looking at using road treatments, I think the consensus now is maybe we need to look at when these areas get fully developed or close to fully developed, or before it's beyond a point of no return. I think Clayton's logic is going to be to grind up the road and then recap, resurface, instead of putting down a rejuvenator or a sealant of some type. In the street department, brush collection is going wide open. There have been some recent storms that have caused them to have to work a little overtime and to try to catch up. Just some background information. In 2021, I had the team calculate approximately how many cubic yards of leaves and debris were hauled off from Telco Village, and the number was 31,000 cubic yards of leaves and debris. And to give you something to compare that to, just on an average dump truck, average size is 10 cubic yards. That would have been 3,100 dump trucks of stuff leaving this village last year. Incredible amount of debris and stuff is generated by our homes and lots and so forth. And so that's one of the things that keep them very, very busy, and that's the reason for those very expensive pickup and dumping trucks that we've got now. Started patching streets and sealing streets and so forth. The Kahidi neighborhood, they started crack sealing the work in April, and then this month, May, they started the PMM treatments for the Kahidi neighborhood. Mailbox installation. So far, we've installed 89 in new constructions through April and had 42 complete replacements. This is approximately 3 to 4 times the number it used to be 5 and 6 years ago. So that's another indicator that things are really growing and booming here in Telco Village. In the buildings area, they are going around each building, working on inspection and punch list, getting their work orders in and so forth to get things, rejuvenated, looking good, working on a dock punch list. And they have finished the remote storage building out at the Kahidi neighborhood, where they will store needed valves, piping, and so forth for the infrastructure needs that happen out there. That way they won't have to return here and get supplies. They'll have them out there and save about an hour's worth of repair time that way.
So on the buildings punch list, I have a request. Could you include rejuvenating the front doors of this building? Yeah, they look like crap.
I'm sure Clayton can have that
And
done.
that, Sue, that was for you.
No, it was for John.
That was
Yeah,
John's
we-
observation earlier today.
We can have that.
Yeah,
It's
so
a bad
was.
first impression.
We can definitely do that. In the landscape department, obviously working on all the beds, mulching, making sure that those get spruced up. They have now started their full mowing schedule. And just FYI, when I talk about mowing, there's approximately 75 acres of land that has to be mowed when you add all the buildings and entrance features and so forth up. So that's 75 acres that has to be mowed every week. Utilities, sewer tanks installed, year-to-date's 116. So that's right in line with the number of new constructions and permits and so forth that's been taking place over the last 2 years. And items in process or completed. We are working on finalizing the pickleball complex contracts. What's made it a little more difficult is I have 2 vendors that are providing services on that. They're about there. They about have them finished and ready to execute. Geo Services did the core sampling for the pickleball complex to make sure that the type of roof structure and the anchoring would be suitable, and that passed inspection. We're working on and working with Republic Trash to try to get them to where they can provide us adequate service. PMM in the Kahiti neighborhood, and that's ongoing. In the marketing world, the numbers are looking very strong. Discovery requests were 116 last month compared to 103 last year, and of course compared to 9 in 2020 when we were in the midst of COVID. The marketing specific traffic that Beth and her team count last month was 412 through the building, somewhat down from 21, which was 652. I'm not sure that's indicative of the environment or the economy and what's taking place there, but it is a noticeable drop by about a third. And year-to-date, discovery requests are very strong at 351. Completed tours are 201, and the total marketing visits 1,122, about 200 off from the 2021 level of 1,349. POA lots closed last month, 37. Year-to-date, POA lot closed are 130. And this is up significantly from last year at this time, which was 78. In the golf world, I'm surprised, Chris, you still here? I'm surprised you could take away from the course to get here, but golf continues to be very busy and getting busier as the weather improves and gets nice. Year-to-date, we've played 25,000 rounds versus a budget of 20,000 rounds. Not up to the same level as we were in 21 at this time. We're off by about 1,000 rounds. But the month of April was not exactly very cooperative in the golf world. The weather was cool, wet, and so that didn't help us any. But May's being the exact opposite, so I have a feeling that when golf numbers come in for May, we'll probably be ahead of where we were in 21, if not right at the same level. The back nine bunker renovation at Kahiti is now underway, going nicely. Chris and his team have launched a course care campaign called Teleco Pride. We want everyone to help care for our golf courses, and specifically our greens. I wished everyone would learn to fix a ball mark properly. It seems like that's the biggest scar that I see on our courses here of late. The red-tailed hawk, which is formerly the member guest tournament, is coming up June 15th through 18th, 78 teams, which is larger than past member guest tournament. That's coming up. The junior golf camp scheduled for July the 11th through the 15th. They're expecting upwards of 70, 75 junior campers at that. So all of the grandparents that have their kids coming in for that, they need to get in line, get signed up. And on the personnel side of the golf world, a few announcements. Charles Roffer was promoted to the head golf professional at Kahiti. They have added a Sharon, is it Lemelman or Lemelman? Lemelman, who has more than 20 years PGA experience. She's going to be helping the professional staff on a part-time basis. And they have a new apprentice Jay Bergen, who's recently graduated from Maryville College. He was captain of the golf team, so be careful if you strike a bet up with him, he can play. Just a little word of warning. In the rec world, Simon advises that required maintenance on the clay courts has been completed. This is something that's done every 3 years. They have to scrape the courts and reapply the particular matter back down. It's very expensive. Simon and his team may want to look at that and see if maybe a different type of court would be more appropriate than that Hartrue material. But that's a decision for Simon and the rec committee to take a look at. The pickleball tournament had 133 players in it, had perfect weather. I think everybody had a great time at that. And pickleball continues to grow and be a main driver in the rec world, and that's one of the reasons that we are very excited about this pickleball complex that's going in. At Chota, the rec center acoustic tiles have arrived and been installed, and they will be starting the indoor cycling class here very soon. Chota Pool open on May 21st. The pavilion and reservations are booming. They have 15 reservations this month alone, and it looks like for those persons or groups that want to use the pavilion, I would encourage you to make your reservations sooner rather than later. Kahiti, the pool deck has been resurfaced. The pool will also open on May 21st. They've added some weights to the and kettlebells to the Kahiti Fitness Center. And TOC is now getting regular participation in their free injury assessment offered there. So for those that have the knee or hip or elbow or some other joint ailment, Bob, in the Kahiti neighborhood, you may want to encourage them to take up that TOC free offer. And last but not least, I want to cover some stats on the rec membership. The rec membership numbers that we showed at FAC and the Simon puts out at the rec committees and so forth are month by month, and so they fluctuate depending on just the randomness of people renewing their memberships and so forth. But when you look at the year-to-date average numbers, you'll see that the average family or household memberships are back up to an all-time high. So we've regained the ground we lost in the COVID era, and we are gaining ground even further past that peak. In the average number for the individual memberships, those numbers are once again up and are about the same level as they were at the pre-COVID era. So, you know, things are picking back up in the rec world as far as memberships and growth and so forth. And with Simon and his staff pushing, I'm sure that's only going to continue to pick up. And also, I think next month I'll probably be reporting on some new paddle boards and kayaks and services that will be used down on the lake. So that's even more fun things for people to do. My last department is food service. Sales continue to be strong and grow. They've had some very good days this year. The T-Bart event last week at the Yacht Club had over 1,300 people participate. That's the biggest event that I think this facility has ever seen in one day. The daily specials are doing a good job of driving business, and the guest satisfaction is showing favorable results. Kitchen labor is still an Achilles heel, and they are having to cope with it day to day. And this goes back to my comment about labor. It's just extremely hard to find good help that's consistently showing up and is willing to work. And as you've noticed, or maybe you didn't notice as you come up here, the new bar in the area is supposed to arrive today and be installed relatively soon, and hopefully be completed in a few weeks. But this ongoing construction of the yacht club and renovation and so forth is a direct result of just supply, demand, manufacturing ills, delivery ills, I can't explain it, I don't understand it, I just know that it's extremely hard to get things delivered on a timely basis. I guess we can blame everything on COVID. TOQA, April sales, 151,000, year-to-date, 419,000. Compared to last year, year-to-date, 310,000. So we are over $100,000 year-to-date better at TOQA. Tenacity, April sales, 142,000, year-to-date, 375,000. Last year, year-to-date, Tenacity was 315. So we're $60,000 better than we were last year in sales there. Yacht Club, April sales, 173. Year-to-date sales is 417. And that would be versus last year at this time, 312. So about $100,000 better than Yacht Club. And Yacht Club has been kind of handicapped a little bit because of the construction and lack of bar. Kahiti, the total revenue for April was 55,000, which is 4,000 above budget. Year-to-date is 159, which is 22,000 better than budget. And April sales were 128, so they're about 30,000 better than where they were this time last year. Bob, counting on you to keep it up, keep it moving forward out at Kahiti for us. And that's all I have to report, Mr. President. Any questions?
Any questions for Winston? So I do have
One thing on the door renovation for the yacht club, it would be good if you could think about a way to add a handicap button that you have at Toqua and Tenacity. There's no handicapped access to the main door at this time.
Okay. We'll look into that, John.
So I have one too. So last month, Clayton gave an update on the water and sewer system projects and also put forth what he and his team were going to recommend. And I believe, Clayton, you said that you were going to be discussing that with PSAC and see what the recommendation was going to be here short term. Because I believe what you said last month was that as far as water goes, we were first going to try going to an even odd watering plan to see how that impacted peak demand during the summer. And then on the sewer, the note that I made was that you guys were recommending upgrading the pumps at the Toqua station and then also going forward with a 500,000 gallon holding tank. So I think you were going to talk to PSAC about that and then come back and actually recommend what we should be doing.
Yeah, and I'm still working with PSAC. As you know, PSAC, they get really, really detailed into the engineering and stuff, so they want me to go back to Jacobs and have a lot of engineering done, to prove that this will work. So that's where we got to decide if we want to spend more money with engineering just to please PSAC, or if we want to look at what our engineer is saying, and our engineer with Jacob says, yes, we can make this work, or do we want to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to prove to PSAC that it's going to work? We got to decide which direction we're going to do. Are we going to continue to spend money at engineering, or are we going to decide, all right, this is our plan, now let's move forward and get it all designed out and move forward?
So okay, yeah, so I think this board will be looking for a recommendation from you and Winston as far as what we need to be doing.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion, of the board members.
We'll also keep in mind that LUB has renovations going on right now with the tank and booster pump.
Yeah.
And we wanted to see exactly what kind of gallons and delivery that those two, we have engineered estimates.
Yeah.
But estimates and reality doesn't always go hand in hand. We want to see what those provide, and then our engineers work with that real data versus estimated or calculated data to go against you know, what we can do and what we need to do and so forth on the water side of things.
Yes, and Adam Byard, which is the engineer that we work with at Jacobs Engineering, he totally agreed with that because the data he entered into our model is existing data. It's not what we're going to have when Loudon goes online with their tank and booster pump.
Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, I just don't want to see us kicking the can down the road and
No,
not doing anything. Just what is it that we need to be doing now?
Okay.
Right.
I would like permission to implement odd and even water metering system for irrigation for those that, and we've got this typed up. We can send it to you all in writing what we want to do. If you have your last number in your address is an odd number, you'll water certain days. Even numbers, you'll water certain days. We have a codes enforcement department that is constantly out there looking at job sites and stuff. When they drive by and see that you're watering on the wrong day, I think we give you a 30-day notice saying, listen, you need to correct this. If you don't, we will either ask you to remove your irrigation system from our water system, or we will install an irrigation meter that we can control what days that you water, and that will be at their cost of $1,000.
So why don't you guys go ahead and put your proposal, get it ready, and get it to the board, right? And then
Yes.
we'll go from there.
Okay.
Rick, I
So,
believe you had a comment.
Yeah. Do we have any indication as to where they stand on the tank, where Loudon stands?
No, I have talked to Mr. Davis, and he can't give me a set date of when they're going online. Now, I do continually go by there and see where they're at. They're really moving on their tank, but just because the tank is almost built doesn't mean they're close to going
No,
online.
I understand
so-
that.
So,
I can
So
check with Tyler
originally,
also.
they were going to be done at the end of June.
yes,
And there's a second rate increase that's baked into the contract when they finish the tank.
yeah,
So that's the reason I'm asking,
yeah, I understand.
because we want to make sure that we tell people in advance when that's going to happen.
We will send that irrigation proposal to the board tomorrow.
All right,
So,
fair enough, thanks. Anybody else? Any questions? Go ahead.
Can I wash my car on the days they say you can't irrigate?
yes,
You can?
yes.
I don't have any grass.
Is it a fleet of cars?
Okay, let's move on. Republic Trash Service, Clayton.
So, just to let y'all know, I have been in contact with Matt Dillard. He is supposed to be the general manager of the region of, for Republic Trash Service. And then I've been meeting with Randy Dixon, which is the senior manager of, he's a Republic East Region Area Municipal Sales Senior Manager. So, we constantly been meeting with them. I have face-to-face with Republic at least once a week. We're in constant communication with them every day, letting them know the problems that we're having in every area and stuff. They continue to say, well, we'll get another truck out there. Sorry, we got a new driver and they missed it. So they've always got an excuse, but we'll continue to tell them what our problems are. We're looking at options of what they can do to fix it. We're continuing to reach out to, trying to find someone above this Randy Dixon guy to it that we can talk to, trying to find out if we're just not important to them, or, you know, what their plan is. Every time they give me a plan, and I can show y'all multiple plans that they've given me to fix the problem, they just never follow through with fixing the problem. So we're continuing to work with them. I know there's been a lot of issues going on, but that's all I can say is we're continuing to reach out to them. They are under contract till the end of '24, so, but we will continue to work with them.
And with this exasperation here, so what if Republic just decided they just don't want to pick up there anymore? About how long would it take to replace them? No, this is to get trash cans
Containers.
on site.
Yeah.
They've got to buy trucks, they've got to hire employees, then they've got to send them down here and start picking up our trash. Estimate. How lo-
Estimate would be 3 months at the quickest. Possibly 4 to 6 months.
So what would we do as property owners with trash 4 to 6 months? Let's go 2 months.
Yeah.
They perform a miracle. 2 months, what am I supposed to do with my trash?
It would be a major problem. I mean, the only thing we could do is you would have to take your trash
Somewhere.
to somewhere, a landfill or a dumpster or something.
So we're kind of proverbial rock in a hard place.
Yes, sir.
But I want to make something perfectly clear. The people that are sending the letters in, the people that are sending the emails, poor old Clayton's email computer, I saw it the other day, was smoking. And that's good. Keep sending them in.
Absolutely.
This is backup documentation. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Okay, thanks, Clayton.
You're welcome.
Oh, by the way, they miss our trash too. Yeah.
I don't know, today's my day, so when I get home, I'll know.
Yeah.
No? Okay, come up to the mic so people that are watching online can hear you.
I think just because of the age of our community too, it's not just the fact that, you know, I see rats running around the trash cans in my neighborhood, and we're pretty neat people. I actually have pictures of that. There are really old people that live here. They're in their 90s, they're in their 80s. They're hauling their trash out, they're hauling their trash back. It's their trash day on Thursday. They don't come, they take it back, they take it back. Oh, leave it out, put it out on Friday. These people are hauling their cans in and out, in and out. It's not just, you know, for me, it's not that bad. I can haul it in and out. But I feel sorry for a lot of the people on my street. It stinks. It does look, as they say, like a third world country. What's the point of doing all these tours, discovery tours, and all spending money and all of that, when if they're taking a drive around, they're seeing trash cans and recycling tubs laying everywhere. I know you're doing all you can, but just have to vent.
Mary Smith, I live in Toqua neighborhood. They didn't pick my garbage up again for the third time on Friday. So I called there on Saturday. Well, they don't have an answering machine for problems. You have to wait till Monday to call. They should have an answering machine. I've been here 16 years. We used to have waste management. They never missed a day. They picked up any patio chairs you put out, anything you put out, waste management picks up. They have voided their contract, Republic has, because they don't pick up our trash, okay? It's not consistent. We don't know when they're coming. We're having bets on our street. You think they'll be here today? How much you want to bet? They voided their contract. It's time to talk to Waste Management and see how long it would take to switch over. They don't have a legal right. They're not doing their contract. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. And I just want to ask one question to our POA attorneys. Do you represent the Loudoun County landfill, your firm?
Yes, our firm does represent the Loudoun County Solid Waste Disposal Commission.
That is a conflict of interest, and Waste Management uses the Chestnut Ridge landfill. Do you represent them?
No, I do not.
Okay, we need to get them back. They were superior, 16 years I've been here. They were superior. We never had a problem, never. And so we really don't care where they take our garbage. Chestnut Ridge is fine. And please consider that. And it can be done at any time. As you said, we don't have to wait till 2024. They violated their contract. Thank you.
Would it be possible to?
Gotta go to the microphone.
Would it be possible to convert some of the village to another? Because you said it would take them a long time to upgrade, to come get the trucks, and we know they can't get labor, so. But if we reduce the load on Republic and their fee and say, okay, you guys are just doing north or west or whatever, and we're going to contract with Santec, is that possible, or does it have to be all one company throughout Teleco?
You better answer that.
A couple clarifications. You know, for one, the prior service provider was Waste Connections, not Waste Management. Secondarily, we're evaluating all of our legal options right now, and I can just leave it at that.
Okay.
You, sir, know better than anybody in this room what that contract is. I don't think you have any legal way to get around this thing here. You have to get into the corporation, and they're multi-layered. There's about 6 or 7 divisions, and they hide behind these divisions. You were there when the guy was arguing, it's not my responsibility. I'm in a different division. I don't have anything to do with that. They even did that in front of the commission. So the fact is, I don't know how we're going to stand because we're behind the Loudoun County. And that gentleman right there holds the purse strings for the whole mess over there. He's the legal guy for that. I mean, you are the legal guy for that, for the people that handle the dump and also the trucks and everything else.
Yeah, and I'll clarify, I'm adverse to Republic in both situations. I have contracts against them. I negotiate against them in both situations. I don't represent Republic in any manner.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. The landfill is another thing. They're having issues with that now. So something's got to give for that. So have fun.
Thank you. It's been a blast so far.
Okay, I'm not sure what else to say on that. Other than the POA, Winston and his team, and the POA board are looking at this very intently, trying to figure out what the next best thing to do is. I think we need to be looking too at implications of whatever action you take and transition time and things like that. So it just isn't that easy to snap your finger and go to another company. So we're trying to look at this and be sure that we're making the right decisions along the way.
And continuous trash service.
Yes.
There's a very strong possibility of that 2 to 3 months lapse in service when you're dealing with 2 major corporations and one is being pushed out and another one comes in. There's no telling what they can accuse each other of, and us in the middle, which we then won't have trash service.
That'd be interesting.
Very sticky little situation.
Okay. Let's move on to another topic, telecoms. Mitzi.
Thank you, Marty. The majority of this presentation will be given you today by our IT manager, Kevin Alfont, but I just wanted to introduce the topic real quick. He and I were talking. It's funny, this agenda item is not on the agenda because of these recent comments and feedback that we've received on Nextdoor. Kevin and I had just passed in the hallway, and he had sent me an email to let me know that we'd been gaining viewers on our public cams. The public cams, again, he'll give you background, but they've been there about a year. We even have one on the golf course that WATE Channel 6 put out there for kind of a weather tracker, a public camera. And so I had asked Kevin, I said, well, why don't you give the board an update? I think that's pretty interesting. And he actually reached out to Beth Kaburka, our director of marketing, and said, do you mind to advertise this in the Telegram just to let people know it's available? So now we're really sorry we did that. But Kevin's going to give you a little detail. I'll pull up the website momentarily so that you can actually see what it is and what it does for us. And he's going to give you some examples of some positive feedback. We've actually received equally as many positive feedback comments as we have negative. So Kevin, I'll let you have the floor.
Great, thank you, Mitzi, and good afternoon, board. So public cameras, what kind of nut came up with this idea and what were they thinking, right? Well, here's the nut, and here's what I was thinking. The idea for this project was born about 3 years ago, as I was convalescing from a hip replacement surgery and had to spend 5 weeks in recovery. As anyone who's had a hip replacement knows, it's not an unusually tough recovery, but there's a lot of time sitting around letting the body heal. As a person who's used to working 9 to 10 hours a day, this recovery time was challenging for me. I felt removed from my job and from the Tellico Village community that I loved. So from time to time, I checked the security cameras to view the facilities that I usually cared for. And I realized by looking at these cameras, I felt connected to the village, to my work, and to my colleagues. I thought to myself, wouldn't this be a great thing to offer our members as a similar experience on a smaller scale? Those who might be experiencing situations that make them feel removed from the community, those recovering from a surgery, or those for whatever reason were housebound and could not get out and be active in the community, could use cameras and still feel connected. With public cameras, they could still participate virtually in the village and feel connected to the community they loved. And this was the impetus for this project. The project was not a front burner issue, and we worked on it from time to time over the years. We realized there were other purposes for such a system. As a useful member tool, members could use such a system to check the conditions of the lake, see if the lake was crowded, if the water was choppy, etc. They could check to see if the restaurants were busy, if the beach pavilion or the beach itself were crowded or in use, if the pickleball courts are crowded or in wet condition, or to view the weather from the cameras mounted on the water tower. Another use was as a potential marketing tool. The public access cameras would allow prospective future villagers to view our community from their current homes. A prospective villager in their homes in Upper Michigan or New York or Wisconsin could pull up our public cam page in January to see lucky villagers enjoying golf or pickleball or fishing while they might be experiencing frigid temperatures. I thought this would be quite a good marketing tool. So overall, we wanted to utilize technology in an innovative, novel, unique way to provide another useful service to our members and the Tellico Village community as a whole, to provide a service that other communities were not yet embracing and that would set Tellico Village apart. So to date, we have a total of 17 public webcams showing a cross-section of the village facilities and public areas. We've received overwhelming support from villagers concerning the public cameras since we published an article about them in the Telegram earlier this month. Many members have asked us to expand the cameras to include the Chota tennis courts or more pickleball feeds. We've heard requests to put the cameras on the golf courses, especially during tournament play. Others have made suggestions to adjust cameras to better provide useful views. One example was a suggestion that a camera at the yacht club gas dock be adjusted upward to show the sock and the flag. This would allow members to check on the web page and know if the gas pump is in operation or is down for repairs. At the same time, we've also received complaints about these public cameras. Many members here today and others may have read or heard of the complaints about the system on Nextdoor. Some villagers have expressed discomfort with the public camera locations in restaurants or at the beach pavilion. A good number of objectors see no problem with the cameras on the water towers or showing the surrounding scenery, but object to the public cameras showing villagers in public spaces. Others simply vehemently oppose public cameras altogether. I can dispel some concerns that I'm aware of that members have expressed. One question that arose was that of video recording. The public cameras do not record footage in the traditional sense. There's a time-lapse feature that takes a snapshot about every 15 minutes and strings them together to give a time-lapse view from each camera. Unlike a traditional security camera system, these time-lapse videos do not provide a true continuous video. This feature can easily be turned off for each individual camera or the system as a whole. Another concern was that of audio feeds and recording audio, and I can tell you that the cameras do not feed audio or record audio. The system also has a face blur feature that allows faces to be blurred out of video feeds, We've experimented with this feature on a few video feeds, and it's not quite ready for prime time yet. It's a good concept, but not quite functional as of yet. So to alleviate some of the concerns of those members who've taken the time to email me or leave me spirited messages, several changes have been made. The Tokwa restaurant cameras have been changed to show the Tokwa putting green and driving range. The lower level yacht club camera has been changed to a camera on the roof of Tenassi Clubhouse that shows the lake and the submerged silos. The Tugaloo Beach Pavilion camera has been changed to the Tokwa Pro Shop Golf Course staging area. The Chota Gym camera has been temporarily changed to the Chota parking lot, but will ultimately be changed to the Chota tennis courts when we get a camera at that location. The Kahiti Restaurant's been changed to the Wellness Center tennis courts. And finally, the Yacht Club bar will be changed to a new camera once the construction is completed. This camera was put online to allow members to see progress of the construction of the new bar at the Yacht Club. And interestingly enough, the most complained about location was the Yacht Club bar.
Yeah. Is there audio?
No, there's no audio.
Okay.
So the revised system no longer has any interior restaurant cameras, no pavilion or gymnasium views. Once the construction of the bar at the Yacht Club is complete, we'll have no interior views of this facility either. So I come to the board today to introduce you to this project, to ask for feedback, approval, or rejection, suggestions for improvement, and any comments. And I also welcome any comments from the membership. Just keep in mind that all or any of the cameras or features can be modified or changed to meet the needs and the desires of the village members and the board of directors. So before we ask questions, if you'd like to take a look, this is the web page. We have two cameras on the water tower at the Wellness Center. Those are the top two cameras. One was facing the Wellness Center, one is facing the Smoky Mountains. This is a live view of the bar going in at the Yacht Club. To the left of that is a camera that's on the Yacht Club exterior facing the main channel, Tellico Lake. Below that, we have the POA Board conference room, large conference room. To the right of that would be probably the only truly remaining camera that would show members in a public space, and that's at Kahiti patio area next to the annex.
There's an example of how that blurring does. Every so often, the guy in the pink colored shirt, see the blurring, it's on his hat, not necessarily his face. So Kevin's kind of tweaking that out, but.
And what we noticed on the face blur is if people were still, the system thinks it's an inanimate object and it takes the blurring away, so it doesn't see it as a face. Below we have the POA lobby. To the right of that, we have the tennis courts at the Wellness Center. Below that, we've got the gas docks at the Yacht Club. This would be the camera that we will adjust upward so you can see the windsock and the flag that indicates whether the gas pump's in operation or not. To the right of that, we've got Tokwa golf cart staging area. Below that, we've got the Tugaloo Beach dog park. Then we have a new camera that's on top of Tenassi Clubhouse that shows the silos and the dock in the inlet there. Below that, we have the Chota parking lot, Chota Recreation Center parking lot that will be moved to the Chota tennis courts once we get a camera there. The pickleball courts, that's pickleball court 1 and 2. Below that is pickleball court 3 and 4, and we've had requests to put the other pickleball courts up for viewing. To the left of that is the Tokwa putting green and driving range. And then finally below that at the very bottom is a camera that shows hole number 14 at Tenassi Golf Course. That camera's at the halfway house there. And that's a fun camera to watch. There's a lot of balls go in that lake, or that pond. Yeah. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions?
Kevin, I have one question. I got a letter, if you go back to the first image of the water tower. You can see a driveway in the distance there.
Not that one, the next one.
The other one, Mitzi, I think.
Yeah, that one.
Yes.
The one on the right.
Uh-huh.
And his objection was, that's my driveway, and I don't really want somebody looking at the fact that I may be going on a trip, and they're watching me load my car with suitcases and so forth. So I think that's a valid request.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable request. We can climb up there and keep the same camera in the view and tilt it up so
You
his.
just pull it up a little
his
bit
condo
and
is
show
not
the roof
in
of his house, but not the
Yeah.
driveway.
Sure, we can do that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. He pointed at me first, but I didn't raise my hand, sorry. Thank you for changing those cameras. And Marty and I have been having some conversations, and it reminded me of my family looking for homes every time we got transferred. And there was always a list, you know, the family couldn't take a 3-story house, so that reduced that market. And then you didn't want a swimming pool, so that reduced that market. And then you didn't want a corner lot, so that reduced the market. So I had to look for particular kind of houses. To me, this is the same thing, and you mentioned right in the beginning, half the people like it, and they like it a lot, and half the people don't like it, and they don't like it a lot. But when you start showing faces in restaurants, again, back to my house example, you're reducing your participation of that restaurant, in my opinion, by 50%, and we don't need to do that. And I appreciate you changing that, because even though people may really like it, the ones that don't aren't going to come to the yacht club anymore. And we need them to come to the yacht club, you know, and TOQA. But this is cool. I like scrolling through there and looking, not to look at anybody, but for the reasons you said, if I'm going to go out on the lake, I want to see that there's yachts going up and down, and it's not a good day to ride the wave runner, you know? So, but thanks.
Thank you, Pat.
Couple questions. Where did the funding originate for this? Because I don't remember seeing this as a project in any budget in the last 5 years, so.
Right, so the cost the cost is very minimal to put this project in place. There is no internet connectivity fee that we pay in addition for this service. So all these cameras are running off existing internet connections. Most of the cameras, probably 12 of the 17 cameras, are cameras that are providing feeds to our security camera system. So we're just pulling additional feeds off those already existing cameras. The only true cost was the initial cost of about $500 for cameras, the cameras that are not on the security camera system. And then we had a fee, we have a $30 a month GoDaddy webpage fee, and that's about it.
Okay, and if I understood right, this came from you recovering from hip surgery. You thought it'd be a good idea to make this available.
Yeah,
Okay. I am not a fan, so
okay.
I understand why we need it for security, but seeing it in the telegram that we're going to open up web pages or camera views, it's like, where'd this come from? I don't think the board ever talked about allowing this or reviewing the game plan, how it's going to be used, so I was surprised. I don't know what everybody else thinks about it, but I was pretty surprised that we were doing this.
Bob?
Well, I agree with Steve. I'm 100% against this. This is the fee of invasion of privacy. I don't care if it's.
Can you be, Bob, use your,
For security reasons, you want to have security cameras that are in-house, that's different. But when you start showing to the public worldwide, I don't want somebody in Ohio watching me have lunch with my grandkids at Kahiti. That's an invasion of privacy, and this whole program, in my opinion, should be shut down immediately.
go to the.
Microphone.
To the microphone, please.
Could you click on the left-hand side of any one of those cameras and pull up that little white arrow? See that little white arrow on the
Go over
left?
to the left, Mitzi, there's a little chevron that'll pull out.
There's a little, yeah.
No, in the, there you
There
are.
you go.
There you are.
Okay.
And this is the, you can go ahead and click on that. That's the time lapse
Yeah.
feature.
Now, can you scroll down to the bottom, to the very bottom? And what date are we seeing there? 5/10? Keep going if you can go. What is that date?
5/9.
I've seen, that is a date of, if you click that, that's the date that video was made? Is that true?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well, there's some, and maybe it's just a, you know, a simple thing that could be fixed, but there's some that are showing video 2 years ago.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And then when I went back and looked at it, what I saw was from the original video that I was looking at, the date on the top was wrong as well.
Right, and that will happen because those dates on the left will pull from the camera date.
Right.
So if you've got a malfunction on the camera where it's been rebooted, the power's been, sometimes those start at 1970, and then they'll readjust. The next time they hit the time server, they'll adjust the time on that. So those timestamps aren't always completely accurate.
But we were told they do not record, that they're like a live streaming. You can take a look, you can come back in 5 minutes, and it might be a little bit different. That there was no recording going.
No, there is recording for time lapse I think it's every 10 minutes. There's a snapshot taken. And when you take a snapshot every 10 minutes and put them together, it's like a recording. I mean, it is a recording, but it's not continuously streaming recording.
Okay.
And again, that's a feature that's a simple fix to, you know, uncheck a box and it's no longer there or available.
Okay, and the other thing I want to point out, if you look at the one that's highlighted in the lower left-hand side, there's a cloud symbol with a downward arrow, and you can download that and record it yourself.
You can download the time-lapsed recording, that's correct.
Right, all of them.
Yeah, yes, if you want.
And so it can be recorded, and that's what people were complaining about. They weren't, I don't think, complaining at all about the view of the wellness center or the pretty view, except for the guy's garage there. And many people have complimented on the new one that covers the Tanassi clubhouse and out into, yeah, that one. I mean, they like it. And I'm a member of the dog park, and I like to see that if somebody's there. But I don't really want them recorded. Prior, I think a lot of people were very upset because they were recording Tugaloo, and people were having private parties, and we can't thank you enough for taking that one off. We have children there going into the restroom. We have children at the beach in swimsuits. People were afraid to take their grandkids there. So thank you a million times for removing that one. And the third complaint that I heard most often from people was that this was wide open to the internet everywhere. Is that right, or are we missing something?
No, I mean, that is correct. If you know the URL, the web page, you can get to it.
Okay, so if you know of the web page, somebody in Germany could watch it.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't talk to anybody that wanted that to happen. If they want to log in somehow to say the marketing department wants to use them. Frankly, I don't know why, because they have much better pictures and videos and everything for their marketing. I mean, when you go to that page, it's gorgeous. These are kind of boring, and to have them recorded and then have them available to everybody all over the world, not many people like that. I don't think anybody. Well, maybe two on Nextdoor, but
Pat,
those are my concerns. Also, if you go home tonight and you look at these videos, you can zoom in on them and then take your screen and spread it, and you can read stuff that's on people's desks, like their bill at TOQA or whatever. It's too detailed, too much information. When you're just looking at that picture, it doesn't look too bad. It's when people who are computer savvy start manipulating those videos, they have way too much information about us. And not one person complained about the security cameras. They would like these converted to those. They would like that.
All of these are
footage
security,
saved, you
these
know.
are all security camera feeds, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they like that, and they really thank you tremendously for doing the camera changes.
Hey, if you guys don't mind, is there any comments on the feed that maybe should be addressed?
So while he's looking, sir, you have a comment?
Yes, my name is Steve Baker. I'll begin by saying I'm a fan of the websites. Recently, there's been 3 major posts on Nextdoor, as you're probably already aware, and there's been well over 400 comments, and it's an understatement to say that it's been a heated topic. So I am the person who hosted the poll on Nextdoor that garnered over 700 votes from our residents. I began the poll because I thought there would be an overwhelming number of people supporting these cameras. And I was somewhat surprised to learn there were a lot of people strongly against them. The results were, if you haven't noticed them, were that 45% of the respondents felt that the cameras were harmful, 31% felt they were useful, and 24% felt they were neutral on the subject. Now, right or wrong, in no particular order, the popular reasons the residents gave against and that they cited against these cameras were they're an invasion of privacy, they are creepy, they are illegal, they are a waste of money, the cameras are on an unsecure website, they are another example of Big Brother watching us, they will result in stalking, anyone, anywhere can view the website without logging in. And I, as I enumerate these comments, I don't necessarily agree with any of them. I'm sure some of them are just plain wrong. But as I say, I'm a fan of the telecams, but and I know there are some certain benefits, especially to me and other friends of mine who are pickleball players, because we can look at the pickleball courts and determine the condition of the courts. Are they dry or not? Are the courts being available? Are they available for use? And of course, we can see people on those courts. So that is going to be one of the features of a camera on the pickleball courts. But the fact is, a lot of residents are against this technology, and it would behoove the POA and the IT department to appease these residents in some degree or another. Now, it sounds like Kevin is already on top of that to some degree. He's mentioned this face blur feature, and it may not be come to fruition fully as yet, but I have to think that once face blur becomes available and is able to work maybe more efficiently, I think a lot of these arguments and reasons that people don't want it will go away. Because once you can't see who that person's face is, there is no invasion of privacy in my mind. I don't know that it's still creepy any longer. If you can't see the face, it's Big Brother watching us. And I don't know if you can stalk someone whose face is pixelated. So, so I think even though there are many people seemingly against this, I think it's a concept, it's the future. I think we should embrace it at some point, but I think it does need a few tweaks along the way. There are people who have these preconceived notions and opinions and beliefs, I think, that they have brought into this discussion before this even happened. That doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong, but it is the way they feel, and I believe the POA needs to do a better job of explaining the benefits of these cameras, as well as alleviating some of the security concerns that the Teleco residents have. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And to answer your question, there are 13 comments on here, and every time, it's every time. Every time we review these, somebody is going to get back on here on Nextdoor or Facebook or social media, and they're going to say, that guy, that's me, I'm Pat White, 304 Skiatook Circle, property owner. They're going to say, he didn't call my name because I didn't read your comment. And they do it all the time. I'm not going to call all 13 people's names because some of them repeat the same thing. The majority of the 13 say, thanks for making the changes. they didn't like the faces either. There's one in here talks about a legal issue, who you take pictures of, who you don't. I'm not going to address that. Then there's if you want to know the rest of the 13, they're pretty much, if you go back and read the next door post, they go from positive to negative. And it goes, I like them a lot, or I hate them, you know? And it's what you were saying, Steve. And so I hope that we've got 2 board members over there say get rid of them. The rest of us haven't formed an opinion yet. I hope we keep the people's faces out of it. I think there's at least half of the population, including the comments, that like the views and find it entertaining as it was, but we need to have some type of board decision. So that's pretty much what they said there. There's a couple of, no, I won't, yeah, okay, fine, you know. I'll leave it alone.
Okay, another comment here.
I didn't know this was going on, or I would have not eaten at any of our restaurants. So I'm glad it's not at the restaurants. But as I'm listening to this is a valuable security tool. And one of the places that we have cameras, and they don't work at all, is on the boat docks, the common boat docks. We have thefts on the common boat docks, and those cameras don't work. So I would really like it if he would get them working and showing the docks, because we have theft at night, they drain gas, all sort of stuff. And we need it for security probably everywhere, and it really is a tool for that. We should think about changing it to security. Thank you.
Well, there are a number of cameras that are security. Is that true, Clayton, that we have security cameras on boat docks that don't work?
We have 187 security cameras, and every camera's working. Every camera is, every
They
single
aren't
camera.
necessarily fed to this.
No, they're fed to
Yeah, they're fed to
individual
the POA office.
Footage on the docks at any time?
at any time.
Yeah.
After break-in?
Well, you have to remember, docks are 100 feet or more long, and we have 2 cameras on every dock, one at one end and one at the other end. So while we monitor those docks in both directions, we can't see everything on every dock all the time.
Well, there's
So a
another.
lot of things happen at night. It's dark. Those cameras are limited to, 100 feet.
Then they record keep the footage for how long?
A minimum of 3 weeks,
Okay.
and some of them are 6 weeks.
And this is what is addressed in the Marine Advisory Committee. If you don't go down there to your boat, like you stored your boat for the winter, and you don't go down there in November, December, but you do go check it in January and find out somebody stole all your gas, that footage will not be available.
Okay.
And we've got a contract with an outside vendor who comes every quarter and checks every camera, and all the DVRs and mixers, everything
My
works.
husband's a dock captain, he goes to the meetings monthly, and they always tell him that the cameras don't work.
No, ma'am, I'm
I'd
in
like
that
to know
meeting
who
every
does
month, and
that.
I've never heard that conversation.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
So the bottom line is, if cameras, whatever else, you think they're not working, contact the POA. They can give you the answer. Put a help spot ticket in. We do have mechanisms to be sure that issues are being looked at. So
I have a question for Kevin. Kevin, are there any legal issues with the use of these cameras?
Generally, there are not. This is the first I've seen them or been aware of them, frankly, so I'm kind of coming at this
Same for
somewhat
me.
cold. But generally, when you're out in a public forum or a public place, you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy from a pure legal standpoint. Now, that doesn't mean they're appropriate or not appropriate. That's a very separate decision as apart from any legal standards which may apply. And as long as the video is not being used for commercial purposes, there's not a technical legal issue. However, obviously, there are various opinions about the appropriateness of the cameras.
My only issue with this was the board was not informed. I believe that the board should have been informed, and made a decision about it at the point of its launch.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My concern and the concern that I get the most from people are any cameras that are on people. And I know you've addressed a lot of them. I think you've gotten the most impactful ones, the ones that were at the restaurants. You still have the one for Kahiti. We probably need to take that one off too. But, you know, also when you're putting them on tennis courts, pickleball courts, I still think you might have an issue there of some people thinking that that might be invading their privacy. So I think we need to be, even though it might be entertaining to people, we've got to be aware of other implications. And, you know, people are here to enjoy the lifestyle that Teleco provides. They don't necessarily want to be on camera. So I think we've got to be sure that we are taking that into consideration. And also homes, like the one that John pointed out.
My name's Paul Fenton. I've lived here 14 years. In spite of some of the other opinions I've heard, I just want to say I'm against the cameras. I'm particularly against the cameras that show people. I can recognize people without seeing their faces in many instances by their body language and their mannerisms. So anything that shows people, tennis courts, restaurants, golf courses, shut them down, my opinion. Just one man's.
All right, thank you.
Marty?
We're going to
We got to move this thing along. So
Yeah, one more comment, and then we've got to keep,
I'd like to make a motion that until such time as we have a proposal given to the board in justification for these views, we take them offline, wait for a plan to come to the board so we can review it, ask questions, and vote on it. Versus us keep coming back and forth. You're going to have some folks that we'll be here all day. We got other business to take care of.
You're right. Okay, I have a motion and a second to take these offline until a formal proposal was brought to the board, which we could then agree upon. Any further discussion?
I'll make the motion. You already got it in?
You already did.
Motion
You're voting.
Motion by Steve, second by Bob.
Okay, good deal.
Let's call.
This, I could maybe talk to Kevin if he would want to talk. Pickleball courts, maybe they would have a special event and they would request for that camera, you know? Maybe they'd take a poll of their membership and say, we want to do this. So they're, you know, don't have to, in the long run, throw out the baby with the bathwater, because you know, you're having a great big event. You might want to have some cameras so people can watch it who couldn't get in. That's my thought. And the other thing is when I did some research on these streaming cameras for like the Villages and Fairfield Glades, they don't ever show people. So the people are not off the wall on that. And their boards have a video camera policy for all video cameras.
Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor of shutting down the feeds until we get a proposal that we can vote on, say aye, or raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, I don't want you to take that as a negative. I want you to take it as we weren't informed.
Sure, I understand.
I think you're trying to be innovative, and
Yeah,
that part's good.
I compliment you on
Yes.
initiative.
Liaison reports. Let's start with finance. Jessica?
Okay, so year-to-date, assessed lots are at 6,787. We do have 125 suspended accounts. Property transfers through April was 325. That's a lot, in just 4 months. And our docks, they are no delinquent docks at this point. We do have 4 open slips, but probably at this point, those has been leased. And RV has around 16, and we're working through the waiting list to get those filled.
Jessica,
Yes.
this morning we were talking about 42 or 44 delinquent lots, docks. And you're saying none of them are delinquent?
Not after April.
No.
No,
So
they're all-
everybody has paid?
Yeah,
Yes.
and they paid.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought we still had 44 not paid.
No, through April. It's now
There
May.
was 43 relinquished their slips, so maybe those 43 relinquished this year.
So everybody that's in a dock's paid for it.
Yes, that's correct.
Good news.
Good news. So revenue, we're holding really close to budget with about a 3% positive variance. And expenses, of course, are down 21%, but that is mostly due to maintenance projects that have not been completed yet. Here's an overall look of each division and their revenue. And all of our revenue is looking good and holding strong. The commercial revenue, the difference there is a budget issue. Once we get all new leases signed with the tenants in the commercial building, we will be fixing that budget number, so you won't, that variance is really not correct. Expenses, we're doing really good so far this year. Every division is down in expenses, but that's because of equipment and maintenance projects, like I've already said, that have not been purchased or started or completed as of yet. So, under general operations, your big variance is under transfer fees. There has been 325, which is 192 more than budget. And our permits, our miscellaneous permits, they're holding really strong. They're 39% better than budget. And then expenses, you got your salaries. For almost every department, you're going to see this variance, and it's due to our unfilled positions that we're working really hard to try to fill.
Jessica, I have a question.
Sure.
When you loaded salaries and benefits from the budget into this year's plan, did you level load it through the whole year? So in other words, if there was supposed to be 10 employees, you had 10 employees regardless of what, the hiring status was for the entire year?
That, for regular full-time, yes, that is correct.
So if we didn't hire somebody until March, that's going to be permanent savings?
That's correct, yes.
Got it.
Golf operations, they are at 7% better than budget. And golf rounds are holding, pretty strong. Winston already stayed a little bit lower than last year, but still better than budget. And then under operating supplies, you see a variance, and that's mostly some pro shop supplies that have not been purchased yet. And then, of course, under maintenance is just a delayed maintenance projects. Recreation, their revenue is 12% better than budget. And they've got a lot of maintenance projects that have not started yet. One of the projects that got completed was the Kahiti pool deck. And they are some money left over from that, and they are going to repair the gates around the pool with that money. But there's still a lot of projects that are just getting started. In Public Works, revenue is a little bit lower than budget through April. You got a negative 1% there. And As far as expenses goes, their software expenses, they are looking to purchase a preventative maintenance software that will help them, maintain the buildings and equipment and, have a program that'll keep up with that for them, will help them tremendously. And then paving or the road repair, that's going on. The invoices will be coming in for that pretty soon.
Is Clayton still here?
Yeah, he's still.
Yeah, Clayton. He went and hit on me, didn't he? Yeah. So Clayton, in maintenance, you're showing that you have a $597,000 variance. Are we pushing projects out?
No, we're not pushing them out. We've got contracts signed. We'll be starting, which we have projects going on now. We have projects be starting at Tokwa.
Because in years past, we've delayed maintenance, and at the end of the year, we haven't done it.
We are not delaying. If you would love to come and be a part of our PSAC meeting sometime, you can see we have.
No, I trust you.
I know, but what we have done is we have put all of our projects in like a critical path chart.
Yep.
With timeline and stuff. So when we are on schedule with all those.
So this is an improvement in years past.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's okay, when we do the 23 budget, we'll just cut $2 million out in the first half.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll move it into later in the year.
Exactly.
Public safety is our next division. We're right, our net income is right on budget. We're about 5% different in those departments. Food service, their revenue is up 12%. That is for Kahiti Grill only. And then they are, as far as the variances under expenses, you have kitchen equipment that needs to be purchased, terminals for the Aloha point of sale that will need to be purchased. Dock and RV, as I stated earlier, there was 43 slips that were relinquished this year, and that leaves us with 4 open slips that we will fill, of course, off of our waiting list. And then under maintenance is our normal year-to-year dock maintenance that will be happening that hasn't happened yet.
So again, it was loaded into the first part of the year, but it's not going to really happen then, right?
Yeah, it's pressure washing the docks, replacing the anchors, lighting, stuff like that.
And there is major work going on now.
Okay, cool.
The commercial division is the Village Square building. I already addressed the revenue on this. We will be correcting that budget number. I will be working with Beth to do that. And then there are some scheduled maintenance that has not happened yet. Golf rounds report is member rounds. We have right at 22,000 through April. Guest is 3,100. That does create a variance from 2021 of about 1,000 rounds that we hope to make up this year. So. And rec memberships, Winston went over these, and gave you guys an update on that already, but they are both better than budget at this point. All right, so the first capital project that I'm bringing before the board is a Super 600. This piece of equipment will be shared by all 3 golf maintenance. The budgeted amount was $52,000. We're requesting $52,700. The source of funds will be operating cash. The finance Advisory Committee did recommend this, and I will need board approval to purchase this piece of equipment.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure for a Wiedemann Super 6100. The amount $52,695.44 from operating cash. Any discussion? Rick?
Tell me what a phrase cut is.
You're going to ask me?
No, I'm asking him. You just happen to be in the line of sight.
Let me move out of the way.
You're going to educate me.
Sure, I challenge you to go to the Wiedemann website, and a German company, this is a piece of machinery we've been desperately trying to get for years and years. It'll fill a lot of needs, one of which is phrase mowing. So phrase mowing is basically a planing mechanism where you can go and level a surface, and it's a real aggressive verticut where you're almost turning it over. It's a light tilt, but in the process of doing so, it creates a level plane. We won't use it for that a whole lot, but on occasion we may do it to a range tee, but it enables us to fill a lot of needs we currently can't facilitate with respect to verticutting. You can flail mow, it'll collect cores, and really where it will replace some existing antiquated equipment we have at Tokyo especially. But one of the biggest benefits is what it'll do for us from an efficiency perspective for storm cleanup.
Okay.
I know where my son works at the honors course, they had a tornado a couple of years back, and their Super 600 ran 12 hours a day picking up debris from the tornado, so it'll literally shred branches as big as my arm. So it's
Cool.
excited to be getting that.
So, and it's sole source for what reason?
Unique technology, nobody else makes anything comparable.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Nope, looks like 7-0. Thank you.
The next capital request is for a storage shed at Chota Recreation. The current storage shed is over 16 years old. It looks pretty bad. It's inadequate for their storage needs. They are going to take this shed and move it to Public Works, and Public Works will be able to use it. There's 3 bids. The budget amount is $12,000. They are requesting $11,300, and this is within Winston's level of approval. The next is for the Water and Sewer Department to purchase a pipe locator. The budget amount was $7,000. This is coming in at $7,100. They will be able to locate buried pipelines, and not just water and sewer pipe, but any pipe, that they need to locate. In a lot of cases, the tracer wire is no longer there for them to even see that, so this will help them out tremendously. This is also within Winston's level of approval, so.
Is there a reason why this didn't come out of water and sewer reserve versus general operating funds, which all property owners pay for?
We could move it to water and sewer. Would you prefer water and sewer? Okay,
That makes sense.
okay. So
Well,
can I?
now it requires board approval because it's coming from reserve
Yes.
fund.
Yes.
So you need to make a motion.
Make a motion that the $7,056 for the pipe locator come out of the water and sewer reserve versus operating cash.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase this water and sewer pipe locator from the water and sewer reserve, right, instead of operating cash. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Is this something that needs to go before PSAC to approve?
It has been approved by PSAC.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
You
recommended by PSAC?
Recommended, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
someday I'm going to get them trained.
Okay. Let's call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. Let's move on.
Something's fishy now.
I think you're done, Jessica.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Asian carp update. Mr. White.
Okay. So I follow along on the Asian carp. They don't call them Asian carp invasion anymore. It's now called an invasive carp invasion is what they're calling it. And I was corrected when I...
PC.
Yeah, I know, when I talk to them. So anyway, I keep up with the website on the TWRA, which kicks you over to the government because there is a invasive species committee that was formed by Governor Bill Lee. And one of the members is Frank Fiss. He's on TWRA. The person that I need to talk to there is named Cole Hardy. I've got to call out to him, and I was discussing with some other board members prior to this. What I'm learning is that they call you, you don't call them. So you will call, leave a message, and they will get back with you, which is fine because my understanding is Cole Hardy with TWRA is out in the field, and he goes out for extended periods. And so anyway, my question, let me go on. So I've also reached out to Senator Mike Bell, talked to his office assistants there, and I'm waiting on a return call from them as well. And so right now, I don't have anything to report other than there was supposed to be a third meeting in the month of June of 2021. I think it was canceled because of COVID and has not been rescheduled. So that was one of my questions to them. Is it going to be, and when and where? They usually live stream it. They're usually very interesting. And the last information that we got prior to the June meeting, which was the April meeting, was that this commission was recommending installing barriers downstream from us. In other words, from land between the lakes, Barkley, where they did put a barrier, and move it, the next one, to Pickwick, to keep the migration from coming further upstream. So right now, I don't have anything to report until these gentlemen get back with me. I will commit to the board and the property owners as soon as I hear from them. I will write this up, I will put it in the Telegram, and have Beth publish it.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Any questions for Pat? All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Next item is CEO search.
CEO search. Activity's been brisk. The Coalition's representatives have vetted the candidates that our search committee generated in phase 1, and out of that, 2 candidates will be interviewed by the primary recruiter. Coalition's had additional search activities with 41 targeted candidates who have received screening interviews, and by the way, they're continuing to generate candidates. Out of that group, 7 candidates have been identified for more in-depth interviews. So they're basically screened, but not in-depth interviewed. There will be further interviews that'll be conducted this week, which will be, deep dive kind of interviews. We expect that we'll see the first slate of candidates by month end. And as I said, in the meantime, candidate generation activities continue. We're on schedule. We have weekly status update meetings scheduled with the search firm. So that's the update.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
No problem.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have any other items from any of the board members?
No. I've caused enough damage today.
Seeing none, do I have any from the audience? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Adjourned. Thank you.